Zahuruddin Muhammad Babur Mirza was the first ruler of the Mughal Empire. He traveled from Central Asia to northern India in 1526 with a large army. His talent for conquest came from his mother, who was a descendant of Genghis Khan. He believed he was a rightful heir to this region because he was also a descendant of Timur, who occupied that land at one time. Babur ruled a vast land including present-day Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Pakistan. He invaded Delhi and successfully overthrew the Turkish Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi. His success came with a good access to supplies and weapons. The defeat of the Turks established the Mughal Empire. In 1530, Babur's son, Humayun, fell deathly ill. Babur constantly prayed to take the disease away from Humayun and die in his place. At the age of 48, on December 26, 1530, Babur died from the disease. He left behind many legacies, including Baburnama, a detailed account of his journeys and conquests. The heir to power was Babur's son Humayun. When he came to rule, he was very inexperienced, so the beginning of his rule saw much turmoil. In 1540, he was overthrown by Sher Khan. He lived in exile with his wife in Persia. It was here he developed a devotion to the arts, specifically architecture. His tomb eventually became the beginning of Indo-Islamic architecture in India. In 1555, a few years after Sher Khan died, Humayun invaded Delhi to overthrow Islam Shah, Sher Khan's successor. He was able to recapture his sultanate, but the restoration of the empire laid in the hands of his youngest son, Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. Akbar's rule marked the beginning of the classical age of the Mughal Empire. He was only 13 years old when he became emperor in 1556. He proved to be an effective conqueror. He captured all of present-day India and Pakistan. He moved the capital of the empire to Agra, where he built the Red Fort, which still stands today. In the 1570s, he moved the capital once again to Fatehpur Sikri, his architectural gem. Akbar also developed a very efficient and relatively fair system of bureaucracy and administration. A military governor was put in charge of each province. This governor was then responsible for any abuses of power or mistreatments in his area. He also developed good relationships with Hindus, which is one of the many things he is known for. In 1579, he abolished the jizya, a tax imposed on most of the non-Muslims. In addition, Akbar rescinded a pilgrimage tax paid by Hindus who traveled to various Hindu pilgrimage sites. Akbar gained the support of local Hindu provinces through marrying the daughters of various Hindu families. He was said to have over 300 wives of different religious affiliations. His fascination with religion led to the creation of Din-e-Ilahi, a mix of religions Akbar studied throughout his life. Akbar died on October 27, 1605, after about 50 years of effective ruling.
Akbar's successor was his son Jahangir, who took over his father's vast empire in 1605. His mother was Rajput Jodhabai, and he was Akbar's third and eldest surviving son. His rule was not as magnificent as Akbar's, but he ruled the empire well. Jahangir ruled with religious tolerance, except with the Sikhs, against whom he held a personal grudge. Jahangir was a great patron to the arts. He supported his artists and had much faith in their abilities. Every painting under his rule was carefully documented, signed by the artist, and recorded. This has allowed modern scholars to easily study the paintings of his rule. Jahangir's rule ended in 1627 when his son Shah Jahan took over. Thus began the golden age of the Mughal Empire. Shah Jahan, like his predecessors, was very involved in art and architecture. He quickly depleted the emperor's treasury with his extravagant construction projects, the most famous of which is the Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal was built as a tomb for Shah Jahan's favorite wife, Mumtaz, who died just 4 years after his ascent to the throne. It was originally a small and simple expression of Shah Jahan's grief, but in true Mughal fashion, it turned into the large and grand monument that stands today. Shah Jahan spared no expense when building his beloved's final resting place. He had 2 large entrances built, one on either side of the Taj. He also had workers carve verses of the Quran into the stone. It is said that the entire Quran is carved into the Taj. He ordered workers from all over his empire to aid in the construction. A large complex with a central fountain and a river leads up to the Taj Mahal. It is constructed with white marble and inlaid with numerous gemstones in flower patterns, a style called Burjankari. The entire Taj Mahal is laid out in the shape of a rose, Mumtaz's favorite flower. Shah Jahan also had the 4 towers surrounding the Taj Mahal, called minarets, built leaning slightly outward so that if an earthquake struck and the towers fell, they would fall away from the Taj and wouldn't destroy it. In 1659, Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan's son, imprisoned his father and took over the Mughal Empire. His rule was marked by disorder and turmoil and little expansion. and the Mughal Empire fell into steep decline after his death in 1707. The Mughal Empire officially fell in 1858 to the British. By then, the Mughal emperor had become a puppet and wielded no real power.
Though it has been over 150 years since the decline of the Mughal Empire, its legacy has not been forgotten. The Mughals brought the Urdu language to prominence. The many architectural wonders built during the classical and golden ages can be visited today, such as Fatehpur Sikri, Agra Fort, Charbagh, and many others. The Mughal Empire also influenced the modern movie industry. Movies like Mughal-e-Azam and Jodha Akbar have been inspired by the Mughal Empire. The Mughal Empire has been the greatest empire to ever rule India. The achievements of the illustrious rulers shaped modern India and continue to have a lasting effect on Indian culture.